Wow. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Great discussions, beginning with the KPMG set and rounding it up with the behavioral economics. I found that really exciting. And just as leadership matters are, you will find that this kind of ties in everything that you've heard today together. Because that's what leaders do. Leaders provide direction, and there's a Latin phrase that summarizes leadership. I'll leave out the phrase, but I'll talk about what it means. It says, out of many, one. That is what leadership is, and that's what you'll find this conversation to be about. It'll be like tying together everything you've heard from Denise and also JP. So thank you very much for even the cascading. So good job, Caitlin, on that. In terms of what you're going to be hearing, it's just going to be for 15 minutes. Don't worry, I have it down to a science. It's going to be a combination of my 30-year experience in corporate, which cuts across Fortune 500 companies, S&P 100. I've lived on three continents. I've moved 4 times. I've established businesses across initially 45 countries, and that got expanded to over 200 countries and territories, but also combined with academic research that goes into this area. So I'm coming at it from a leadership perspective. And in terms of that, leading change, the force to make things happen, my personal experience was starting a new business, running about 3 countries. But when I reviewed the status quo, I realized that I had to change the organization's 40-year-old strategy. It became so successful, the role was expanded to over 45 countries, and the new approach to the business, the change that was implemented, was rolled out globally. And in a 5-year period, we were able to reach 500 million new users with a new strategy, with a new change that was brought about. That's the power of change, but it requires force to make it happen. That force is what we're going to be talking about today. There are over 850 definitions of leadership in academic literature, okay? But not to worry, I've read each one of them. I've studied each one of them. I didn't memorize them so that you don't have to, not to worry. But I'll be bringing them to light here. But one of the pillars of those 850 definitions is that leaders create change. If you want to summarize what leadership is the ability to make change happen. When the founder of the Disney empire passed away, it looked as though there could be no successor. But when Eisen took over, he took it to a totally different dimension. Hugely successful, much more than what Walt Disney ever could conceive of. That's the power of change. There's no limits to what you can do when you key into the force that can make change happen. So change is a multifaceted area, just as leadership is a multifaceted area. But the facet of leadership that we're going to be looking at is how to, like Koya said when he opened, how to truly be an independent, trusted source to lead change in your organization. As you can see, change is very tightly linked to leadership. Most leaders don't even realize this, but your role, creates success for them. If many of them realize it, they'll be treating you, a lot of you, very differently. So their success and your success are intertwined. Why? Because leadership, like I said, is about creating change. My definition of leadership, interestingly, now this definition I've used in several forums, so I didn't come up with this just for you, but this is my own definition of leadership. I mean, I looked at over 850 and I was like, hey, what will one extra definition do? No issues there, right? My definition of leadership is that every organization will continue in a state of stagnation or in a uniform motion unless it is compelled to change that state by forces that is exerted on it. And leadership is one of those forces, sometimes powered by crisis. As you can see, my definition of leadership is centered on change. If you do not make things happen, you are not leading. And if you're making things happen, you are a leader. You may not have that title on your door. You may not have those accolades or the authority to go with it, but interestingly, in the definition of leadership, you are a leader. So understanding that and taking that to what it could be is what we're going to be, talking about and putting a fine, anchor on. Change by itself is not automatic. The current state, as JP said, is inertia. The current state is inertia. The current state is not to do anything. The story that Caitlin, shared about her son is spot on. Change is not fun. Therefore, there has to be a force that will have to make it happen. Now, if you don't understand that as a parent, you may think that that force means raising your voice. You may think that that force means being physical. That's not the force that will require lasting change, that will deliver lasting change. But it requires force to displace inertia. Because again, like JP said, there is the bias for the status quo. And there's a lot of research behind that. But leaders dislodge status quo. Leaders challenge inertia, because where there is no change, there is no leadership. The status quo bias will keep you rooted. Leadership will keep you going. Nothing changes without leadership. And nothing changes without force. Nothing changes without force. It either stays stagnant or it continues in a predictable motion. If you want something different, you have to act different, and that's where leadership comes in. And that means that what you're doing, your role is a key leadership role. You may not be on the executive committee yet, but trust me, as organizations begin to understand what you do and begin to appreciate the impact that you can have, they will begin to bring you closer to the power center of the organization. So when we talk about force, what do we mean? Because that's what this conversation is all about. True leadership is a force for change. True leadership is a force for change. So let's unpack what that force means and really just build it into a model, and then I'll be done. Okay. So that force, this is what it means. Fervor, it means that for you to create change, you have to have fervor. Okay. We'll talk about what that fervor means. Change has to be obligatory. Okay. Change, for it to be successful, has to have reach. It needs to be creative, and change is exhausting. If you can see a pattern going through here, yep, that's the force that we're talking about. That's the force that you need to lead change in your organization. Okay, so let's begin to unpack that and talk about that separately. There's a saying that says when you have internal motivation, you won't succumb to external manipulation. The internal motivation is fervor. The internal motivation is the conviction that you have about what the change that you're about to bring on. I've seen lots of leaders trying to implement change, but they don't believe in it. But we could tell, we could see. I'll give you an example. We wanted to change the dynamics of our business. We wanted to change the trajectory of the market, of the market share. We wanted to change the revenue trajectory. We wanted to change profitability. We wanted to change penetration. We wanted to change share of voice. We wanted to change, the selection process from clients. So many things that needed change. Therefore, the organization brought all of us together to a destination, I would say South Europe, so overlooking the Mediterranean. Beautiful destination. It will have cost the organization about $700,000 for that 3 day and, sorry, 3 nights and 4 day event that we had. So let's just say there are 2 car manufacturers in the world, okay? GM and Ford. So we were the GM crew, okay? So GM, we came together, we wanted to win market share, we wanted to take market share from Ford and all that, and we discussed that for 3 days, non-stop. Everybody came, shared their ideas on that change and how to make it happen. And then on the 4th day was the golf day, okay? After spending 3 days learning how to steal market share from Ford, how to displace Ford in the marketplace, and on and on and on. And then one of the executives got up to tea because it was a golf day. It was, we had already worked for 3 days. We needed to bond and we needed to, unwind. And as he was about to take his tea shot, his wallet dropped off and his car keys dropped. And would you believe it? This gentleman had a Ford. He spent the whole 3 days before talking about how to get customers or potential car buyers to choose GM, but he, an executive of GM, was driving Ford. Blood drained from his eyes because all the eyes just trained on him and were like, really? Seriously? Trust me, there are lots of people, they do stuff, they don't believe in it. Don't be one of them, okay? Don't be one of them. Have the fervor, have the drive. Because the opposite of that is lethargy. The opposite of that is being apathetic. The opposite of that is being dull and being uninterested. You want to bring about change and people are not seeing that passion in your eyes? Don't even bother, because it won't go anywhere. You need to have the conviction of, you need to be persuaded in order to persuade others. So fervor is the first one. The second is that change has to be obligatory. Okay, if it is not obligatory, it won't work. What Caitlin did with her son was to make it obligatory. We can't leave this here. Okay, we can't live like this. It has to change. Try to avoid change for the sake of change. There's so many projects that are out there that we throw money at, or that we should have pulled the plug on. Again, going back to one of the biases that JP talked about, we should have pulled the plug on, but no, we just keep going. Ask yourself, is this obligatory now? It might have been obligatory when you started, but is this still obligatory now? If the answer is no, as a change leader in the organization, you should pull the plug. So change requires fervor from you, the leader, but change has to be obligatory. Not just that, in terms of the, not just, doing change for the sake of change, but also making sure that it is what is necessary. There was an executive that moved his organization, head office of his organization, from being within 10 minutes of 90% of their clients to a part of town where they were at least an hour and a half away from their clients. And I asked him, I was like, why did you move? He was, he started giving me reasons about tax and all that. And I asked again, why did you move? And then the reasons whether down, and I asked the third time, why did you really move? And he leaned in, looked across, and he was like, yeah, my house is only, 5 minutes away. That's why we moved. And the change that exercise required, it was like a 9-month process to move the organization just to get the chief executive to be 5 minutes close to his house, something that he could not share with the people. Make sure you're not engaged in such projects because it blows up in your face. You lose credibility and on and on. For the third one, I want us to take this poll. So this is where we want to tee up the first poll. So let's put that up for the people to respond, and then we'll do the next second one thereafter. Thank you. So by involved, it's saying to people that will really be part of that change, that has people that will have ownership of certain aspects of that change initiative. So what do you think? What percentage?
So results are coming in. I'll just end the poll now.
Okay.
And share the results. We have a technical error again. So I'm seeing the results myself.
Okay.
And we've got just one person said 2%, one person said 7%. And then we've got a 30% split through the other three options.
Through the others. So thank you very much for that. That is what you will expect, right? So the response is what you will expect. But research, and I mean, when I say latest research, I mean, it just was released in the last 1 week by McKinsey. It was a global research, detailed research. They looked at organizations and they asked this question for successful projects. What they found was you only needed to involve 7%, minimum 7%, minimum 7%. That number was so powerful that if you went below 7%, you will get half the results, half, such that 7% and higher will have almost more than double the result. And when I mean result, I mean total shareholder value of that change initiative. So that's that number. The second poll, please.
Sorry, I'm getting an error again, but it's the same question. So what is the average level of employee involvement in change initiatives and organizations? So
okay,
you guys can drop it in the chat what you think the average level of employee involvement that's needed, or what it is.
What it is, yeah, in reality, yes. That is, what did you think McKinsey found? Yeah, 25%, 3%, right? Yep, 3%. I mean, the 3% have it. It's 2%. That's what McKinsey found in terms of the level of engagement, and that's why over 70% of transformational change initiatives fail, because not enough people are involved. And that brings us to this next analogy that I want to put in your mind, so that when you think about reach, when you think about who to involve in the change initiative, think about the coast redwood. Is a tree that is native to California, and it's about 35 stories tall. That's how tall it is. Normally, with that height, the root system should be about 100 to 150 feet deep. But for the coast redwood, it's only 6 feet deep. How can a 6 feet deep root system sustain and hold up a 35-story tree? That's because the coast redwood does not go down. It actually goes across. And what is it looking for? It's looking for other redwoods to connect to. Okay, it's looking for other redwoods to connect to. That's what the redwood, and that's what keeps it standing. Your success in your change initiatives depends on your reach and who you connect with. That 7% minimum, you want to sit down and choose them carefully, choose them wisely. Don't let them all be yes people. Bring some, doubters. Bring some people who are not really fully convinced. Bring different people from different functions, from different roles, with different depths of experience, from different generations, with different experiences, and all of that, and make sure you have the right reach. Think about the coast redwood and always connect with the right people. Now, the coast redwood does not connect with the root of any other tree. It connects with the root of another coast redwood. So in other words, you want to make sure that you are aligned with people whose goals are the same as yours. Their approaches should be different. Their thought processes should be different. Their objective, all of those things should be different, but make sure that the vision remains the same. Just like the buffalo found that this oxpecker is an ally, helping it to pick up ticks and all that irritates the wood. So a lot of us will shush your potential partners that you should have reached, you shush them away. Don't do that. From now on, just relax and enjoy. Let them do their work. Okay, let them get connected. So it's not just the fervor. It's not just that change should be obligatory or that reach is required. Also, change needs to be creative. In other words, what are you delivering? What are you need to be clear about that. Something about leadership is the clarity of purpose. What is that purpose? What is the organization benefiting from this? What is that, benefit analysis? The detail. Don't skip through that. Let's not just go through the process of change because we are change leaders, but let us go through it because we want to create something new, something that impacts people. Because true change is a creative process. As I round up now, the final one is that change is exhausting. If you look at the change initiative and it's easy, I have news for you. You've underestimated it. You've underestimated it. Change is exhausting. Like Denise said, even if it's 3 years or so, the impact extends beyond those 3 years. So you also don't want to look at the period of the project alone. Look beyond that project period and look at the ramifications of it. Change is laborious, it's strenuous. With that kind of mindset, it prepares your mind for the challenges that are ahead. A Japanese proverb says, fall 7 times, stand up 8. That is what a change leader is. Why? Because you're creating a new path. You're taking people through a journey they have never been before, that no one has never walked in before. It's a new experience, and they don't want to do it. Remember? Don't forget that line from Caitlin's story. Change is not fun, but Mom, it's not fun. It's not fun. None of us want to do that. But you want to make sure that you have that at the back of your mind and you are empathetic and connecting with the people. Why? Because you recognize that change is not easy. It is not, it is exhausting. If you have a sprint mentality, when in reality you are enrolled for a marathon, you will gas out. But if you have the mind of a marathon, you recognize how far you need to go, you will hold up and stick to it. So this is the model. This is the force, the leadership force that I have seen in the workplace, that I've seen in research, that if you bring this into your work, you will deliver the results. Why? Because the hood does not make the monk. Being called a change leader without you recognizing and leading change yourself, it's not what the organization is looking for. And changing something outside of you, it's easy, right? But change, the real change is self-change. Organizations that are changing themselves. So it's more like a sculptor, not working on a marble that is separate from itself, but working on itself. So you are carving your own self. That's what change is. And that's why it is difficult to do. Because it's not just an external party out there, you are actually hitting yourself. And so I rounded up with this quote by Dr. Alexis Carrel. It says, to progress again, man must remake himself. And he cannot remake himself without suffering, because he is both the marble and the sculptor. And in order to uncover his true visage, he must shatter his own substance with heavy blows of its hammer. That's what change leadership means. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Well, if you're looking for a new journey and you haven't find something excited yet, I would highly recommend to join our ACMP Ontario chapter. And not only as a member, and because we have lots of things to give and to enjoy, which includes webinars and events, and of course, networking with your local community. But also, I would like to see you volunteering for us. And I will be happy to connect with you outside of this event and tell you more about our opportunities. If you already decided to join us, I would recommend to fill out a form. And I see that already the link is provided in the chat. So feel welcome to put some basic information, and we'll set up a meeting with you and learn more about each other. I will tell you about ACMP Ontario, and you can tell me about your previous journeys, and maybe we can get on one together. If you have any questions, feel welcome to put them in the chat.